Hello, teacher. My name is Emily. Now I'm going to tell about the principle of the language assessment. The principle of language assessment. By using these principles correctly, educators will organize when the test is good. There are practically reliability, validity, authenticity, and the washback. Fact are these principles we will address. There is not a right order of importance. All of them are considered important. According to Brown and Douglas, practically deals with the administrative process involved in assessing an instrument. It includes making, giving, and scoring the test. The term impractical is also discussed and defined as the quality not to accomplish the test objectives. For example, a very long test that consumes a lot of time is impractical. When a learner takes almost no time to take a test and teaches several hours to evaluate is another example of test impractical. And according to with Brown and Douglas, remind us of the main quality of practical tests. There are it doesn't surpasses the voucher limits. It is taken within the given time. It has clear instruction and it is using human and material resources appropriately. Now I am going to talk about the reliability. Reliability is a term that deals with the consistency of test result. For instance, is the same test, same students, or two different dates, the result should be the same. There are several consistencies. The first is learning-related reliability. It occurs when the test taker suffers from physical or physiological factors like illness or anxiety. These factors interferes on the final test result. The other is inter-rider reliability. It happens when two or more scores agree on the test result. In other words, the score provided the examiners don't change. And the other is the test administration reliability. It deals with the condition of test administration. For example, the quality of the exam photocopy, the light in the classroom, the noise outside the classroom, the temperature inside in the classroom, and the quality of desk and chair. And the last is the test reliability. According with Brown and Douglas, say that test reliability occurs when the test causes measurements errors, subject tests, and tend to be less reliable than objective tests due to their nature. And the other is it also happens when the test items are badly written, consequently ambiguous. And finally, when the test had more than correct answer, can also measure errors. Now I'm going to talk about the validity. Validity test, what is proposed to be measured. In other words, validity involves measuring what is supposed to be measured. For example, a writing test must evaluate the process of writing sentences of words. The first is content-related validity. Content validity refers to measurement of all important sections of the subject or content. A test must evaluate most of the content covered in this course. And the second is criterion-related validity. It is the relationship between the measure and the standard and external criteria. The measure must agree with the standard. If there is a relationship with the standards, we may say that the test is valid. And the third is construct-related validity. Construct validity determines if a test assesses what is supposed to. The test has to be constructed to measure a content of a course. A construct can be defined as the idea, the subject, the skills, as the educators measure. Now I'm going to talk about the authenticity. A test or assessment is said to have authenticity when it's designed to apply knowledge in new situations. Evaluations are authentic when they focus on real world events in life. And according with Grant Wiggins, state that assessment is authentic if it is a realistic and replies situation of real workplace and personal life. The problem-solving exercise are example of authentic evaluation. Authentic assessment is different from traditional assessment due to the fact that they are linking to the real work. Authentic task requires time and effort be elaborate. Now I want to talk about the washback effect. The washback effect exists when the test has a great influence of the way a professor teaches. A teacher may find a teaching process very similar of the summative evaluation since they want to their students to pass the examinations. Washback has a great effect of test of teaching and learning. Washback offers learners to change to know the test format in advance. Consequently, students prepare tells sufficiently. And washback is helpful for students because they get feedback before the exam. And that promise the language improvement. Thank you, teacher. That is all.